Good afternoon. My name is David Aaron Johnson. I am a staff chaplain, and we will just want to welcome you into this space on behalf of the Spiritual Care Department of Seattle Children's and the Journey Program. We would like to say that we are honored to be in this place of memorial with you on today. I can't tell you the burden of a heart of a chaplain. I think all of my colleagues who are chaplains would support this, how burden it is walking alongside a family at the transition of their child. We want you to know this afternoon that our hearts are with you. We are honored to be in this space today and to remember each child and to be carriers of their unfinished stories. This will be a special time. This will be a time where we can share our memories, our tears, and our hopes together. And together is always the good place to find healing for our sorrow and our grief. For remembering is always the best way to nurture intimacy, and that the connection will continue to go on and on. We also hope today that you sense and experience a compassion for your ongoing journey of grieving and remembering the child that you loved. The children that we have been so honored to know. And as we are coming from various cultures and various traditions, we want you to know in this memorial we will honor all traditions and all paths. And in this spirit, we will join together, unified in this time of remembrance, compassion, and affirmation. Many of you have been with us before in this memorial, but for those of you who are joining us for the first time, our sincere hope is that you will find comfort in knowing that you are not alone and that there are others who will join you in your time of grief, memorial, and connection. Today we will hear from hospital administration and staff who will share their stories of how your child has changed our lives. And there will be moments in this memorial that you will be able to reflect on your own grief and to cry if you need to, and to connect with the love of your child that will always be a part of your life. So I invite you to enter into this space to participate as you feel comfortable, as we gather together in this space. At points of this memorial service, as you are invited, you can call out your child's name, speak words out loud, sing along, and know that we are connected as a community of love which surrounds and holds each of us together. If you have brought any mementos of your sweet child, we want you to know that at any point in the service, you can bring those items up to the altar, as many of you already have, and we can reflect throughout the service of our love and the treasure of our children. For this is a time to join as a community of those who remember and grieve and honor the lives of the children who have changed us and whose deaths have left a space that nothing else can fill. May this time of remembrance be an acknowledgement of the value of your child's life and the worthiness of your grief. May we find peace even in the midst of our collective sadness.
Thank you, David. My name is Jeff Ogeman, and I serve as Chief Medical Officer at Children's. And I want to welcome each and every one of you on behalf of myself, the rest of leadership, and the over 10,000 people who come to work every day with the dedication and passion at Children's. But most importantly, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I'm very honored and thankful to be here today. I'm thankful for the people who are working here, who greeted us, who are working behind the scenes to make this happen, and for all the effort that we can see put into today. But mostly thankful that we're all here together. The importance of today is not something that you can read in a medical textbook or learn from courses, but really from our shared experience with each other. And I want you to know that the children's people there will continue to remember and reflect on each and every child that comes through, that our Journey and Spiritual Care program are there in whatever form makes sense. But most importantly, I want to celebrate that as we come here, each of us will experience today differently, but the one common thing is we'll experience it together. And I think we've learned very much from the past few years that togetherness is what we need, what sustains us, and what will help us remember, reflect, and respect the lives that have gone before us. So thank you again for being here. And I, again, am honored to be able to share today with you and welcome you all. Thanks.
The gift of a child, our child, was truly an instrument of grace in our lives, one through whom our lives have been enriched. Through this child, we experience joy and sorrow, laughter and tears. Through all these children, our lives have been enriched. In our child's birth, there was pain, and upon our child's death, there was added pain of loss and despair over the incompleteness of life. Through these milestones, buried within the grief, we have discovered new dimensions of love. Our lives have been enriched. In our child's life, we experience the reality of hope and the meaning of childlike faith. In our child's death, this hope and faith continues on within us as we recognize our need for them. We are forever bonded with our child through love. Our lives have been enriched. Because we have discovered the fellowship of suffering as we identify with other sufferers, we have been brought out of the aloneness of our pain into the community of other pilgrims who have walked where we are walking. In and through them, our lives have been enriched.
Hello. Um, my name is Claire Barnett, and I am incredibly honored and moved to be here today speaking on behalf as a parent representative of grief and loss. I've already met many of you outside as you have lovingly participated in helping create the Mosaic Remembrance Quilt. I'm the owner of Seattle Mosaic Arts, and we have partnered with the Journey program for many years, helping use mosaics as a way to navigate grief. It is such an honor to work with the amazing team at Journey and at Children's Hospital. I started Seattle Mosaic Arts after the death of my 2 young daughters. I found creating mosaics to be soothing to my mind and body. I opened the studio as a way to offer mosaics as a support for grieving people. When Alice asked if I would share a little about my experience with all of you, I was at first incredibly honored, then terrified. I get very nervous speaking in public, and then I was filled with tremendous self-doubt. Alice tried to reassure me. She asked if I would talk about my daughters, Corey and Blake, what they were like, what happened to them and to me, and what it has been like living without them. This is challenging for me to do. I speak a lot about grief, and I often tell my story to people who come into our studio, and yet standing here today in a room filled with grieving families, I feel humbled. We are all living and breathing and aching this shared experience of loss. What could I say that could be meaningful? The one thing I do know is that I have to speak with complete honesty. And that is actually very, very hard to do. I know that many of you can relate to the fact that we, as bereaved parents, very rarely actually speak fully honestly about our experience. It is often just too much for others to hear. In January 2000, my 2 young daughters, Coriander, age 8, and Blake, age 6, were killed on the Alaska Airlines Flight 261. At this point in time, I was 39 years old, newly divorced, and working as a family physician. I was having an extremely hard time adjusting to all the changes the divorce brought, but struggling mostly with the shared custody of our daughters. I found the alternate weekends without them almost unbearable, or what I thought of at the time as unbearable. I have since come to understand that somehow we continue to bear impossible things. It was the last weekend in January. It was David's weekend to have the girls, and our dear friend Sarah, a flight attendant for Alaska Airlines, found out that flights to Mexico were undersold and therefore could easily share free flights for her family of 4, as well as for Corey and Blake and their newly formed stepfamily. 8 people I loved. It was a simple, spontaneous trip to sneak away from rainy, cold Seattle for a weekend. On Monday, January 31st, their return flight crashed off the coast of California near Santa Barbara. All 88 aboard were killed. At the time of the crash, unbeknownst to me, Alaska Airlines was involved in a grand jury investigation regarding illegal maintenance. Ultimately, it was discovered that Alaska had lied about repairs and turned a blind eye to many, many warning signs. They were completely culpable in this preventable crash. Alice asked me to describe Corey and Blake to you, to tell you a little bit about them, to share some photos. Both of my daughters were amazing. They were perfect. They were loving, beautiful, funny and strong and smart and creative and cuddly and sensitive and kind. The list of their amazing attributes go on and on. Trying to tell you a little bit of what they were like feels like an impossible task. All of these glowing words are true. To me, they were everything, the most perfect beings ever. So are the truths that they could be whiny and naughty and defiant and difficult to put to bed and wake up way too early and pricky eaters. The list of challenging things about them also goes on and on. It was also much harder than I anticipated trying to choose photos to share today. I have so many, I thought it was going to be easy. I look at the pictures of my girls all the time, and I love getting to see them in this way. But looking at photos is also very confusing. Over time, I've realized that the strongest memories I have are based on the photos I have. The stolen moments captured on film is fixed and inadequate. They don't show the laughter, the tears, the temper tantrum that might have followed seconds later. I found it very difficult to show the pictures and read my truth, so I've asked them to just show the pictures now as a break. This is the last picture I have of my girls. They were 6 and 8. They were supposed to be all things. As a mother, I never wanted to label them, to hold them to any of their likes or dislikes. I never wanted to trap them into an identity. If Corey loved pink and fairies at 8, was she always going to love them? If Blake was shy and hid under my shirt, was she always going to be that way? They both loved the Spice Girls. Is that who they are? I know their essence, and it is still what I think of when I think of them, but it is vague and confusing. Their cousins and friends are all grown up now, in their 30s, married with children, living full and wonderful and troubled and real lives. Yet Corey and Blake are trapped in this forever young space, and so it feels harder and harder as time passes to really describe them, to explain to others who they were. What is easier and more authentic is for me to speak about who they were to me, what they mean to me, how both of them define and shape me. Since I was very small, I wanted two things in my life. I wanted to be a doctor ever since I can remember, and I wanted to be a mom. It was all a lot. I had both girls during my residency. Life was chaotic and rich and crazy. And even though it was incredibly hard for me, I loved being a family doctor. I find medicine fascinating, and I love the privilege of being able to care for people. And I loved being a mother more than I could have ever imagined. Or more specifically, I loved being Corey and Blake's mother. We were inseparable. They were very snuggly, cuddly kids. They both always wanted me nearby, and I never wanted to be far away. I was amazed by the incredible depth of love I felt instantly. In fact, my very first thought when Corey, my first child, was born was one of intense fear. I held her in my arms and I thought, oh my God, what have I done? I just took my heart out of my body and put it into this tiny, little, vulnerable thing. What was I thinking? Who would do this to themselves? And then, when Blake was born, my first thought, I think I have a lot of dark first thoughts, was again, what was I thinking? Now I put my heart into two little things. Now, if something happens to Corey, I have to stay alive to care for Blake, or vice versa. This is terrible. This was very foolish. I could never survive losing one of them. Even though I was extremely gifted in future worry and anxious parenting, I never dreamed I could lose both of them. And it was not actually a fear, because I knew as absolute fact that if they both died, my heart would just stop beating. I never thought that I could or would physically stay alive if they both died. And it never dawned on me that I would be asked to keep living without them. I feel as if I did die when the girls did. And I don't actually mean this metaphorically died or that part of me died. What feels most true to me is that I did die. I know that I am still here, still standing before you and speaking as a person. But really, the best way to explain how it feels within me is as an embodied ghost. After the crash, time and space dissolved. I was amazed at how protective my mind was of me, how efficiently it blocked the truth out. Even though I went through the motions of understanding what had happened, or of having a service, or talking to crash investigators, in reality, my inner world and mind just kept denying what had happened. I remember rationally answering questions about what I wanted, about impossible things, like what to do with the only partial remains of only one of your daughters. I would answer the question, but really, inside me, I was saying to myself, what does any of this have to do with me? My brain could not accept what had happened. I felt as if there was a huge rubber eraser inside my head, and every totally wrong, unacceptable fact was being actively erased as soon as the thought formed. And even though so much time has passed since those first few months, my brain still seems to erase the unacceptable facts. For example, I think of my daughters all the time. I miss them all the time. I'm aware of the time passing daily. And yet, when someone asks how old one of them would be, I kind of panic. I have to try quickly to do the math in my head. I feel embarrassed that I have to refigure out this answer to this major fact that I live with every day. I've come to realize that my brain can't actually accept the truth. It refuses to accept that my beautiful 6-year-old Blake should be 31 years today. I used to think it would have been different, easier, something, if they had gotten sick, had had cancer, died in my arms, if I had had time to say goodbye, or if I only could have been with them when they died. This thinking is just another way my brain tries to make sense of things that just don't make any sense. I now see that it's all the same. Every child death is completely unique and somehow universal. After the crash, a young friend of my daughter's, Siri, got cancer. I was with her and her family as they battled the sarcoma that eventually took her life. I was with them in their home as Siri died, surrounded by family and friends and supported by children's and hospice. It was just what I had imagined would somehow have been better, easier than a plane crash. And of course, as all of you here know, it was no different. The deep, dark chasm that opened up and swallowed us as Siri died was totally shocking and acute and devastating. The truth of the experience of losing your child is so inexplicably massive that it overshadows all the differences. For each of us, the way we loved our child, who our child was, all of their lives, no matter how brief or long, is completely unique, powerful, real, and the way they died is also unique and full of its own specific horrors. Some of us here are grieving children who never got to leave the hospital. Some lived their whole short lives battling illness. Some lived full lives into adolescence and were suddenly sick or mortally injured. Some died by their own hands. What age they were when they died, where they died, how they died, it all comes back to the utterly unacceptable and excruciating fact that they are no longer here with us. And it is this longing, this ache, that unites all of us here today. And we are deeply, powerfully united. I so wish I stood here alone in my loss. I hate that as I look out at all of you, I know that you know. I am so, so sorry. Sorry for all of us. All any of us can do is stand quietly next to each other, to love each other, and to bear witness to these truths for each other and for our children. I'm so grateful for this annual service of remembrance. Grateful for Children's Hospital understands that the importance and meaning of all of this, and grateful that we all have today to be together. Thank you.
Hi, I'm very nervous to be here, but I also know that if there is a single room that understands tears. It is this room. So we'll see how it goes. So my name is Molly Taylor. I am a pediatric oncologist here at Children's. And I had no intention of being a pediatric oncologist. I actually grew up on a big farm in Missouri and was planning to be a large animal veterinarian so that I could spend all of my time with horses. But medicine found me first. And as I made my way through my medical training, I discovered that I actually loved almost every specialty. Unfortunately, there is no such thing as a psychiatrist, OBGYN, pediatrician, surgeon, so I had to choose. And when I was honest with myself, pediatric oncology was always the right fit for me. I found the science the most interesting, but more importantly, it was this almost sacred opportunity to be a part of the lives of children and families at the extremes of human experience, the overwhelming joy and the indescribable heartbreak. And this was really at the core of why I became a doctor. So when I officially decided to go into oncology, my first thought was similarly, oh no, I have always been someone who feels feelings, like really feels them. Like if you have ever been to a movie theater and there is a mildly touching part of the movie and you hear somebody sobbing in the corner, that's me. And so when I told my family and friends I was going to take care of children with cancer, they were worried for me. And I was worried for me. I remember my dad asking me, how are you going to protect your heart? And I had no idea. And so I started asking other oncologists how they did it. How did they protect themselves? When there could be so much sadness in our work. And I remember one mentor who told me that when a child is suffering, when a child dies, that she imagined herself walking alongside the family in that experience, but there was a wall separating them. She was beside them in their grief, but not in it with them. And I honestly wasn't quite sure how to take that advice. On the one hand, I recognized that some separation from the tragedies that doctors and providers witnessed was necessary. Otherwise, we'd be entirely consumed by them and could not continue to care for others or for ourselves. On the other hand, I never wanted my patients to feel like they were at a distance from me. And this is something that I've heard from families, that sometimes it's hard and confusing when their providers seem closed off, or when after their child dies, it feels like they've been completely abandoned by these people who had been such a constant in their lives and in their children's lives. And so I struggled with this idea of a wall that is both protective and sometimes isolating at the same time. So I thought I'd spend some time with you all today looking behind that wall. Of course, I cannot speak for all doctors or providers, but I know a lot of them and the common stories that we share. So here are a few of them. If you're wondering if we ever break down when we walk out of that hospital room, we do. I think the even stoic version of ourselves that stands there witness to pain and suffering, it might totally disintegrate the moment we leave. We seek out colleagues who understand. We call our moms. We eat way too much ice cream. We swap cry closets, as we called them when I was in training. And sometimes what might be felt as cold or distant is really just us trying our best to hold it together. If you're wondering if we remember your child, we do. We sometimes linger after clinic, sharing our memories. Like, do you remember how he used to flip us off and that's how we would know he was feeling okay that day? Do you remember when he took his morphine PCA to the bar when he turned 21? How about the time she took a helicopter ride over the San Juans with a chest tube? We laugh and we cry and we carry them with us. And we carry their lessons with us too. Their story is indelibly etched in the minds of anyone who took care of them. And maybe that allows providers to recognize symptoms or patterns that otherwise wouldn't be. Perhaps they were part of a research study, building a legacy that helps us all understand how to wield medicine's tools. In whatever way, every single one of your children has made a difference in the care of others. I am sure of that. If you're wondering if we ever lie awake at night and wonder if there was anything else we could have done to save them, we do. And I think this may be more prominent for some physicians and certainly in some situations, but even the most experienced and seasoned of us have those thoughts. We hyperanalyze every situation, almost never get a concrete answer to that question. But that is the darkness that almost all of us feel anytime a child dies. If you're wondering why you don't hear from us, that's really hard to answer. Sometimes we don't want to be intrusive or a trigger for a wave of more pain as you're trying to process. We don't want to say the wrong thing. Sometimes our own complicated feelings of grief and guilt silence us. And sometimes that distance is how we protect our hearts. But I do know that there are unsent letters on our desks, unsent emails in our inbox, countless times when we pick up the phone to dial your number and something stops us. And I don't know all the reasons why we disappear, but we miss you and we miss them too. For me, science is part of my wall as well. I'm a researcher, and part of my work is trying to reduce suffering for patients and families in any way that I can. When I'm putting energy into trying to make things better through research, it's an outlet to feel like I'm doing something about the pain that I see. And I wanted to share something from the science world that I've shared with some that I think has been comforting to many who are grieving. So there's something that's called microchimerism, where cells are shared between moms and babies in the womb. And this was actually first discovered in moms who had boys, since they found the male Y chromosome was present in these women. And now we know that some of these cells from all babies to their mom actually live with her for her whole life. And these cells can be passed on to any younger siblings. And so there is a piece of your child that truly does live on in your family. For those of you in this room that I know, you know that my wall is pretty flimsy. I let you into my life too. And I think I'm learning that everybody's wall is a bit different for all kinds of reasons. But no matter the shape of those walls, I just want to thank you for allowing so many of us in.
Good afternoon. My name is Erica Patnode, and I work at the Journey Program, the Seattle Children's Bereavement Support Program for grieving families. I welcome each and every one of you. If this is the first time you've traveled back to Seattle Children's since your child's passing, I can imagine how tender it may feel to be back. Many of you have come from different parts of Washington State, and some of you may have even come from the different states that the hospital serves in our region, like Alaska, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, and possibly beyond. We welcome you and acknowledge your long journey here, both metaphorically and literally. If you are in this room, you know better than anyone that for far too many, after the hope, after the care, after the cure, there is grief and loss. This sacred space today is an acknowledgement of all of the families, all of you, who never imagined that you would step into grief and loss when it comes to your children. I know that for many of you, part of attending today is to see your child's name in the memorial books. I am so sorry that we do not have the memorial books present today, as we haven't been able to have all of your children's names added. Due to this, we made the difficult decision to not bring them. We know that this may be upsetting. It is for us as well. If you would like to view the memorial books, you are welcome to go to the chapel located on the 7th floor of the hospital to view them. And if you are wondering if your child's name is in the book, please go to the table that is right outside of this middle door here, and Journey staff will be able to let you know if your child's name is present. This year marks the 37th year after a child named Anne passed away. It seems right to mention and to invoke her name and her life today because, unfortunately, it was through her passing that a bereavement support program at Seattle Children's was created. After Anne's death, when she was 10 and a half years old, her grieving parents decided to donate the college fund that they and Anne's grandfather saved up for her education. They made this donation to the hospital to specifically start a program to care for bereaved families like theirs. In partnership with Seattle Children's, they named this program the Journey Program. They were very specific about this name, as it describes the act of traveling, and typically traveling entails going from one place to another, the pathway from point A to point B. Point A begins with your child, but this particular journey doesn't have a linear trajectory to point B. As most of you know, the grief journey makes you travel to all sorts of emotional destinations and experiences, to all sorts of peaks and valleys, the deepest valleys of pain and longing, and to the peaks of joyful promises of what may come from your child's legacy. Anne's parents talked about being one of many travelers on this winding journey. They believed that not being alone on this journey can be helpful, that the long walk of grief can be sustainable and maybe even somewhat bearable when you are walking with others, also navigating the unbearable, like each of you do each and every day. The grief journey often is isolating and lonely, and today we bear witness to your grief and we companion you along the way, even just for a little while. Families, including my own parents, whose child, my baby brother, died, walk this grief journey and often describe how time can become discombobulated as they journey through their own child's life. No matter how brief, and how they navigate their own life that continues with their child not physically with them. The depth of pain and sorrow can feel never-ending, and how with time, even though that pain and sorrow remain, your shattered heart begins to knit itself back together, not as it was before, as that is unfortunately forever gone, but in new ways, in different ways, in a time and space in which your child both remains and in which they are no longer present in the same way. There is a name for this distortion of time. It is called dyschronometria. It means a person cannot accurately estimate the amount of time that has passed. While this term is often used in people with memory issues, this description also embodies what many grieving families like yours describe. My baby brother, he both exists in our family in the here and now and doesn't exist due to this distortion of time. He's forever a baby, and yet 52 years later, he remains deeply present. A parent on this journey shared she never imagined that her path would ever diverge from the original path that was planned with her child. Plan A, and how she and her family now have to learn to walk on this alternate and unplanned road of Plan B. This road being one that she was never able to prepare for before being thrown onto it with no alternative options. Another aspect of being on a journey and traveling is the actual physical movement. Traveling on a road that you are not familiar with can be disorienting and scary, causing you to feel stuck or worse. What matters is not the destination, but that you are moving, even if it's one incremental step at a time and feels like it will take you 1,000,000 years to get to an unknown destination that can't yet be imagined. Another wise parent shared that movement is about change. However, grief is not necessarily what is going to change. Grief is constant, but because you are moving, you are the one changing, and therefore your experience of grief will also change over time. We here at the Journey program continue to wish that someday we will find the words that can go beyond comfort and that can go beyond just companioning, but words that can actually heal you of your pain while you're walking your grief journey. Yet, we also know that erasing your pain would mean erasing your love for your child, for your brother, for your sister, for your granddaughter, your grandson, your niece, your nephew. That leaves us with remembering and honoring the depth of our love for them while holding how profound our grief is. As we go from the coldness of the winter season in the Pacific Northwest to warmer and longer days, the emergence of life in gardens and neighborhoods come to light. I see this life each time I enter the sacred space of my own garden, when I find a nest of baby bunnies or hear the parent birds emphatically guard their own nests, brimming with new life, or when I watch a flower bloom. The delicacy and seemingly unified relationship with all of the other new growth that surrounds them, whether in the most manicured gardens or amongst the untended flora and fauna growing wildly in a field or on a side of a road. Some of the flora is tiny white or pink or blue flowers, and as I look closer, I realize that these flowers are forget-me-not flowers. These flowers are prolific at this time of year and into the summer. Forget-me-nots are often planted and left to grow to remember a beloved person who has passed away. The secret to forget-me-nots is not that they continue to spread on their own and grow with a robustness that is not duplicated among other flowers, but that they pop up everywhere, demanding that they not be forgotten. Our wish is that your love, like the forget-me-not flowers, continues to grow as robust and unforgotten in the midst of the garden of your own life. We remember your children through your love and through your presence, because your children's lives have meaning and continue to have meaning for us, but most especially for you. In the same way that Anne's life through the legacy of her family's generosity and remembrance have meaning for all of us, we honor and remember Anne in each of your beloved children's lives today. We hold hope for each of you for a time when your grief and sadness starts to feel less overwhelming. We hold hope for you for a time when the first thing you remember when you think about your child is love and affection, not heartbreak and loss. We hold hope for you for a time when you can feel more of the joy when you talk about your child and less of the pain. We hold hope for a time when the effects of dyschronometria can feel less disorienting because you have mastered time travel and the distance between now and then, and what remains is a timeless connection to your child. Another relationship that deserves our hope and honoring are the siblings who are present in this dedicated time of today and now. As a bereaved sibling for the past 52 years, I see each of you, grieving siblings whose lives have been disrupted and impacted. Each of you who have lost your sibling, some who remember them clearly, others who have little to no memory of them, and yet others who never knew them because your life began after theirs ended. Know that we bear witness and companion your pain too. Your grief is different from your parents and may even be different from your other siblings in your family. We acknowledge that your life is also impacted by heartbreak and loss. We hope for you a life not governed by your sibling's death, but a life that is enhanced by your sibling's place in your family, much like my brother's has been for me. His brief life helped bring me to the place I am today. It does not define me, but is a part of who I am. We see you, I see you, and acknowledge your grief journey. We wish there were words that we can say to all of you to make your suffering go away. Poet and bereaved parent Gwen Flowers wrote, "There are no words, there are no magic words to help push you through to the other side of your journey, because there is actually no other side to push through to. There is no point B destination. Rather, there is only absorption and adjustment and change, and eventually a compassionate acceptance of your grief. Grief is not a journey that you can actually complete, but rather one you learn to endure." In closing, may you know that today, each of you are held in compassion and in grace on your grief journey. Like the forget-me-not flowers that can thrive in harmonious existence with many different plants and grow in the most unexpected places, may the love that you hold for your child be just as resilient, beautiful, and ever present. On behalf of all of us who stand with you today, and in remembrance of your child and your love, may you feel cared for by our loving hands and open hearts. May you feel witnessed and companioned today, and may you find the endurance for your grief journey. I will now read the prayer of dedication, which is written in the front of the memorial books housed in the hospital's chapel, and where your child's name is written permanently. I invite you all to read along. Oh God, we dedicate this book to the memory of our children. We bring to this act our grief and pain and our longings, our hopes and our dreams. We bring, in fact, our whole life's journey to this moment. We have wanted with all of our being for what has been not to be. Yet now that it is, we ask for the grace to accept the unacceptable. May this book be a symbol that the memory of our children will endure, that their struggles, their courage, their love will continue to inspire us to live more fully and to love more truly. May this be our promise and our prayer. Amen.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Austin, and I'm a bereaved sibling and a longtime children's staff member. Little one, beloved, brief as moonlight on water, your too few breaths against my neck I wear like invisible pearls. Some days your absence settles so thick I am swaddled in loss, my lungs too heavy to lift. Other days your absence is a presence that swells the room until the walls stretch, ache open. Beloved, little one, overnight, the trees dress themselves again in green. And today, it is you I see in every leaf. I cry your name, and rain in my hair whispers, here I am. I breathe your name, and sun on my face answers, here I am. I dream your name, and moonlight shimmers, here I am. I drum the rhythm of your name. I thunder the power of your name. I lullaby the beauty of your name. I lift your name to the moon, to the rain, to the sun. Your name, a kiss, a blessing on my lips. So let it be. So let it be.
It is now time to light the candle of remembrance and to remember each one of our children in their uniqueness. In the silence, you may remember what your child looked like and how they smiled, what made them laugh or cry. As we gather our memories, I now light the candle of remembrance in honor of all the children who have died. And we invite you into this opportunity to speak the child's name out loud or in a whisper. We will offer and provide moments of silence and pause during this honoring of names. I'll go ahead and read a name of a child that died in our immediate family. I think of you. I remember your face. I call out your name. Giovanni Raphael Manzoni. I think of you. I remember your touch. I call out your name. Please feel free to call out a name out loud or in silence. I think of you. Forever you live in my heart. I call out your name. I think of you. I remember your face. I call out your name. I think of you. I remember your touch. I call out your name. I think of you. Forever you live in my heart. I call out your name. I think of you. I remember your face. I call out your name. Malachi, person. Think of you. I remember your touch. I call out your name. I think of you. Forever you live in my heart. I call out your name. We just allow a moment of silence together. Holding all of these children and more in our hearts. Thank you for sharing this collective sacred silence and time of remembering and honoring all of our beloved children.
Hello, my name's David Knott. I'm the supervisor of the Creative Arts Therapies team and a music therapist. I'd like to invite you all to join in singing the words of a song written by Melanie DeMore. And this is going to repeat a few times so you can pick up the lyrics and help me with it, please. I'm sending you light to hold you, to heal you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love. I'm sending you light to hold you, to heal you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love. I'm sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love. I'm sending you light to hold you, to heal you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love. We'd now like to share with you a song written by siblings to their departed brother or sister. And this was written by participants of a Journey sibling loss workshop. Thank you.
Oh, I really miss you. There's nobody like you. I learned so much from you. I love being with you. We are alive and so different. I love you. You'll always be my sibling. You'll always be a part of my life. I think of you every day. You're the highlight of my life. I really miss you. There's nobody like you. I learned so much from you. I love being with you. We are alive and so different. I love you. Whenever I see you, you make me smile. If only you were back, we could play one more time. I really miss you. There's nobody like you. I learned so much from you. I love being with you. We are alive and so different. I love you. You are special to me. You are one of a kind. Make my sunshine bright. You're my candle in the night. Oh, I really miss you. There's nobody like you. I learned so much from you. I love being with you. We are alive and so different. I love you. I remember you. I love you. I remember you.
As we come to a close in the memorial service today, I want to offer gratitude for all who have made this time of remembering possible. This includes the staff, the parents, and siblings who have shared personal stories and moving music. It includes the audio and visual team who have put the service together with grace and professionalism. I give thanks for the Journey program, for their compassion and care as they have planned this service. And I give gratitude for you. Please know that there will be a recording of this time together available toward the end of the month, and the link is on the front of the program. As a gentle reminder, there are no memorial books here, which we are deeply sorry for, but you are welcome to visit the chapel to see your children's name in them. If you are unable to do so but would like to receive a photo of your child's name, I invite you to the table out these doors to talk with the Journey staff who will collect the information we need to get those photos to you. If you have not already done so, I invite you to the front to the memorial wreath to tie a ribbon on the wreath. This wreath lives in the chapel as a living testament to the lives of the children that we love and as a visual reminder of the community we are all in together. We hope that this space has been one where you are able to continue remembering, honoring, and grieving the children you love and who have impacted us all. We know that this is an ongoing journey that everyone experiences in their own ways. Wherever you may be on your journey, we hope that this time together has offered an opportunity to find community with others and to remind you that you are not alone. In a spirit of prayer and meditation and reflection, let us close this service. I invite you to do what feels most comfortable to you. You can close your eyes. You can focus on something that you find beauty or peace in, whether it's a photo of your child or these paintings. You can hold your hands open to receive the love of your child or hold the hand of a loved one near you. You can plant your feet solidly on the ground. Whatever feels comfortable to you, may you find rest and a settling of peace in your hearts. Spirit of love that surround us all and goes by many names, we thank you for the gift of these children in our lives. We ask that our grief remind us how deep our love is and how precious life continues to be. Let the light of that love illuminate times of darkness that we experience and shine on our paths going forward. Help us to be tender toward one another and ourselves, to give grace in times of pain, and to allow ourselves to experience joy alongside the sorrow. May we now leave this time of remembrance with a deeper connection to the greater love that has created, sustains, and embraces every one of us.